Hi guys and welcome. Kindly accept our very fervent apologies for all the reruns we were obliged to force down your throats in recent weeks owing to circumstances we could hardly rise above. This week though, we focused on the looming game over for the Normalization Committee at the Cameroon Football Federation, FECAFOOT, hikes in the cost of living across Brazil as the World Cup kickoff date gradually approaches, the contracted cycling tour of Cameroon, and in portrait we delve into the life and trial of disabled South African athlete Oscar Pistorius. Thanks for hanging around with us as we now make another incursion into news from Cameroon sports world in all its facets from a critical standpoint. So now, let's hit the road. Over the coming weeks, all eyes will be turning in the direction of the Normalization Committee at the Cameroon Football Federation FECAFOOT to bear witness to Professor Joseph Owona's claims and public attributions of decency and a high sense of morality. The 13-man caretaker body was imposed in July last year by FIFA and handed an 8-month mandate to rewrite controversial sections of the Federation statutes, arrange elections, run daily affairs, and then quit by a March 31 deadline. However, in recent months and with the 2014 World Cup looming just around the corner in June, there have been outpours of allegations insinuating Professor Owona, a one-time sports minister and law lecturer, has been multiplying conspiracies to outstay his welcome at FECAFOOT in a desperate attempt to head Cameroon's delegation to Brazil. At the dusk of last year, it was even claimed the professor went as far as imploring officials at the Cameroon presidency and FIFA to allow the committee prolong its work at FECAFOOT, but received a resounding no in response. And despite the vocal lashing of the committee forced down the throats of Cameroonians following sour elections at FECAFOOT last May, which saw the re-election of incarcerated Iya Mohammed, Professor Owona and his subordinates have flatly failed to inform public opinion on the progress of their work so far. Last week, the professor disclosed the statutes have been rewritten and sent to FIFA, adding that only FIFA has the final word in the mandate prolongation saga. In fact, embarrassing money matters, including exorbitant salary demands, suspicious burglaries at the Federation head office, controversial appointments, as well as support for a widely condemned 19-team Division 1 championship have principally preoccupied the committee. In recent weeks, Cameroon has been multiplying attempts at wooing Paul Georges Ntep de Madiba to swap his French nationality and join the indomitable Lions in time for the Brazil World Cup. But the fruitless hunt for the rising star may be shelved another while. The star Rene Forward has been taken off the green turfs after suffering a foot injury while playing for the French youth team last Tuesday. Rennes coach Philippe Montagnier disclosed last week that Paul George may be sidelined for as long as 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the outcome of profound medical exams being conducted on the lad's leg. The game against Belarus, which France won by a lone goal, counted as part of qualifiers for the 2015 European Youth Football Championships. The injury comes as double disappointment for the 21-year-old who was tacitly expecting a call-up to the French national team for the World Cup. Last year, his market value rose considerably when UK tabloids reported Arsenal were planning to bid for its services with a 5.5 billion franc CFA offer amid competition from other English Premier League sides Aston Villa and Tottenham Hotspur. Ambrose Oyongo Bitolo has been retained by US Soccer League side New York Red Bulls. The 22-year-old Cameroonian was invited for a trial session beginning in the preseason last January and fruitfully impressed the club managers. He is one of 3 players who passed the test and will be expected to put their identified potential to use in the second round of the 2014 Major Soccer League Super Draft. Oyongo, who primarily plays left back, previously played for Cotton Sport FC of Garoua, where he won 3 league titles in 2010, 2011 and 2013, as well as the 2011 Cup of Cameroon. He has so far been called up to the senior and youth selections in his native Cameroon. New York Red Bulls managers said they are particularly fascinated by Oyongo's impressive up runs. Unconfirmed news of plans by Tombi Aroko Sidiki to run for elections at the Cameroon Football Federation has been ceaselessly making the rounds since last week. Various local tabloids and online publications stubbornly insist that the currently serving Secretary General at the Federation is already fine-tuning campaign strategies, even when no formal announcement has been made regarding the exact date the awaited elections will hold. Tombi's critics, including sports journalists and observers, have qualified the intention a provocation, considering he is an insider and is versed with the secretively rewritten electoral code of the Federation, which the Normalization Committee says has been forwarded to FIFA for approval. Given the existing blackout on the precise date the elections are due, as well as on the contents of the revised Federation statutes, pundits conclude Tombi's eventual challengers will start out as losers owing to the unevenness of the election playground. He was recruited 4 years ago by incarcerated Iya Mohammed, but several times his qualification has come under question. Cotton Sports of Garoua have booked a place for the 8th finals of the African Champions League after whipping Flambeau de l'Est from Burundi 5-0 at the weekend to erase a 0-1 defeat in the away leg encounter. Meanwhile, Astre FC of Douala have been eliminated from the competition after losing 0-3 to Tupuisa Mazembe of the DR Congo. The game was played in Lumumbashi on Sunday. Astre thus faltered after they were held 1-0 at home in Douala by the same Tupuisa Mazembe. Now, hopes of a decent performance for Cameroon's indomitable Lions at the upcoming World Cup in Brazil were significantly toned down following that 5-1 thrashing on March the 5th by Portugal. Elsewhere, critics say it is time for the indomitable Lions to engage robust homework ahead of the global football congregation. In the meantime, across Brazil, there are fears that Brazilians could once more pour out of their homes into the streets in protest against soaring living costs. Road to Brazil is up next, of course, only on Green Turf. Football specialists and laypersons alike are currently united in the agreement that Cameroon's indomitable Lions need to submit themselves to intensified homework ahead of the World Cup after they were ushered into the Portuguese slaughterhouse and skinned 5-1 last March 5. The outcome of the Lyra International Friendly, the first in a series of warm-up encounters ahead of the Brazil Fiesta come June, has significantly watered down hopes of a decent performance for Cameroon at their 7th World Cup appearance. While fingers of accusation for the humiliating defeat are variously pointing in the direction of coach Volker Finke for what some term irrational substitutions, as well as some players for lack of confidence, the team manager Rigobert Song and defender Aurelien Cheju have both addressed a public apology to fans for the humiliation that enabled Cristiano Ronaldo to use Cameroon to become Portugal's all-time top scorer with 49 harvests. As the indomitable Lions profusely bled in Lyra, the upcoming Group A World Cup opponents achieved sundry outcomes in other international friendlies. Felipe Scolari's dreaded Brazil thrashed South Africa 5-0. Unpredictable Mexico pulled a 2-2 tie against Nigeria, while spirited Croatia plucked a similar score against Switzerland. The indomitable Lions nevertheless have a chance to correct their defense line blunders, midfield fragmentation and pointless attack arrangements when they face two other sparring partners, Macedonia and Paraguay, on May 26 and 29 as part of an 11-day training camp to span May 20 to 31 in Austria. Another friendly has been lined up against Germany's national Mannschaft on June 1. As the countdown to the World Cup begins to narrow, there are increasingly tangible fears that Brazilians could once again take to the streets in protests over rising living costs. A growing number of Brazilians now say the cost of life has steadily escalated over the past year, and across the largest Latin American country, accusing fingers are rising in the direction of the government, which many hold responsible for mismanagement and corruption.
Everything is expensive. Everything. We should take this government and throw it to the bottom of the sea. It's spending a lot, and at the same time filling its own pockets. They're doing these public works and funneling money into their pockets and not mine.
Last June, hundreds of thousands of Brazilians poured out of their homes into the streets to vent their anger over hikes in the cost of transport. Now many say they have to cope with a 6% increase in the cost of education as the new school year gets underway.
Besides the monthly payments, there are the books. They aren't cheap. The notebooks. We have all these supplies. So it's very difficult and more expensive. Some people have given up and taken their children out of school in favor of another because they lack the means. It's really expensive.
Economists say in the build-up to the World Cup, rampant inflation is gradually affecting all other areas of life in Brazil.
Not only did education go up, transportation went up, a little less because of cuts in the area. Household spending went up a lot, and there are various other items that went up beyond their average prices.
They warned the situation could inspire fresh anger and protest at the government of Dilma Rousseff. Her critics have accused her of neglecting the basic needs of the population and engaging rather extravagant expenditure on preparations for the World Cup.
Bana si ben
The official jersey to be used by the Indomitable Lions at the 2014 World Cup was formally revealed on March 5 on the sidelines of their disgraceful international friendly against Portugal in Lira. The jerseys, bearing the trademark of the Lions' German sportswear manufacturer Puma, come in two colors, green and yellow. Unlike the previous sleeveless and one-piece designs that caused Cameroon trouble with FIFA in recent times, the shirts, tailored to suit modern tastes, are sharply different from what the squad has been used to since 2008. Though not immediately discernible from a distance, the difference is glaring when observed up close. Been obliged to sideline the country's three northern regions. Apart from bearing the traditional head of a lion, the Feka foot insignia and a Puma label up front in the chest area, the jerseys are fitted with layers of encrusted lions, and the shirts will be worn whenever the team plays away matches. Don't you go away! The new jersey is going to use as from 2014 and will be worn by the players up until 2015. Our sources say Ghana, Burkina Faso, the Ivory Coast, Togo, Gabon and Senegal are expected to wear similar shirts, considering they are dressed by the same kit sponsor Puma, who have apparently found a lucrative market across Africa. The deadline for the initial sales of allocated country tickets for the 2014 World Cup in Brazil expired last February 7, and the balance sheet of the operation from the Normalization Committee currently running affairs at the Cameroon Football Federation shows very disappointing transactions. Official figures indicate that of the 8,035 tickets placed at the disposal of Cameroonian fans, only a few hundred have been actually retailed, even though some 5,800 demands were registered with nothing confirmed. Addressing reporters last week in Yaoundé, officials mentioned a meager 180 tickets sold, blaming complex internet and unfamiliar banking procedures. The scandalous figure simply betrays the skimpy support the Indomitable Lions can bank on when they travel for the competition. The unsold tickets will be redirected to the world market by FIFA for interested fans around the world. Last January 23, Feka Foot announced FIFA had allocated Cameroonian fans a total 1,975 tickets for the Indomitable Lions' first group stage encounter against Mexico, 1,993 for their second outing against Croatia, and 4,067 tickets for the last first-round clash against Brazil. Meanwhile, FIFA also allocated 700 free tickets for the federation to share out among its members and partners. FIFA is certain to frown at the poor ticket sales, which come after the Normalization Committee dispatched an official Sylvestre Guet Matip to participate in international seminars providing training on the best mechanisms to sell the tickets. Experts now blame the situation on the belated start of the ticket sales. Their rather exorbitant rates ranging from 45 to 67,500 francs CFA, as well as insufficient communication by Feka Foot, whose website, which should have hosted the sales, was obsolete until last week. After a year-long suspension, the cycling tour of Cameroon is back on track again, and this year, organizers have been obliged to sideline the country's three northern regions owing to fears of Boko Haram attacks. And away from cycling, we come back on age fixing, a swelling source of contention increasingly involving a number of Cameroonian sportsmen and women, and especially footballers. Don't you go away! Concerns over Boko Haram-related insecurity as well as ongoing road infrastructure works in Cameroon has obliged organizers of the cycling tour of Cameroon to sideline the country's 3 northern regions from this year's edition of the event. Initially slated to rumble off in Marwa in the far north region on March 9, the race rather debuted in Ebolova in the south region on the same date. It is safe to conclude that the decision ordered by the International Cycling Union is remotely linked to threats weeks ago by Nigeria's Islamic terror group Boko Haram to unleash attacks on Cameroon if authorities here chose to collaborate with Abuja in combating them. And so the far north, and Adamawa regions have been simply left out from the 2014 cycling tour of Cameroon, which is resuming after a 1-year suspension. Nevertheless, the competition, covering a total distance of 1,073.5 kilometers, will see cyclists cruising across 5 of the country's 10 regions, including the center, south, littoral, southwest, and west. The race itinerary shows a total 8 laps that will see the winners crossing the finish line in the capital, Yaoundé. So far, 6 European clubs from the Netherlands, France, Slovakia, Germany, and Switzerland are participating alongside 7 African national cycling teams. Over the past month, 2 Cameroonian footballers plying their trade in the diaspora have come under intense negative internet publicity over allegations of age fixing. In early February, the media floodlights were turned on little-known midfielder Joseph Ninala of Italian Serie A side Lazio when a story posted on the Senegalese website senego.net insinuated that the Cameroonian, claiming to be 17 years old, was actually 41 years of age. While the story faded from the sports media headlines with the club officials debunking the news as baseless, it was the turn of emblematic striker Samuel Eto'o. His age-cheating allegation was actually dropped by his controversial Chelsea boss, Jose Mourinho. In a private conversation recorded by officials from Canal Plus, the provocative special one actually suggested that though Eto'o claims to be 32 years old, he could be 35 and even more. While observers speculated the comments will sour relations between both men, Mourinho has since apologized, but that has so far done little to soothe Eto'o's flaring temper as he continues to fail to live up to expectation in the English Premier League. Meanwhile, bookmakers note, had it not been Mourinho, Eto'o would have gone completely nuts. So hopefully Samuel Eto'o can rise above the scandal as he endeavors to find his feet in the tough and very challenging English Premier League. Now, that said, and away to something else, do you remember Oscar Pistorius, the previously very famous South African disabled athlete? Well, the man is back in court over charges of murdering his girlfriend last year. We seized that occasion in portrait in this edition of Green Turf to come back on the man and his life and deeds. Portrait up next, Oscar Pistorius, only on Green Turf.
On Monday, the trial of Oscar Pistorius, the Olympic and Paralympic track star, gets underway here in Pretoria. Hundreds of journalists will converge here as they did during last year's preliminary hearing. Pistorius is charged with murdering his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp. The affair opened a new chapter in the story of the rise and fall of one of the world's most recognizable athletes. But some South Africans believe his celebrity status will protect him.
In this country, if you have money, In terms of justice, you are above the law. You are given a special treatment.
With all the hype in the media and so on, I don't know. I think they're going to take all the measures possible to ensure it is a fair trial.
Oscar Pistorius, a double amputee, was the pride of South Africa. Known as the Blade Runner, he was a source of inspiration for millions of handicapped people. When he competed with able-bodied athletes at the 2012 Olympics, the young athlete was elevated to the pantheon of sporting greats, a symbol of triumph over physical adversity.
A lot of journalists in this country were friends of Oscar, so you never really got the truth and the objective stories that you really should have got. And yeah, unfortunately, there were too many things that were covered up, whether it be policemen that were, friends of his as well, and then journalists that were big friends of Oscar as well.
After Riva Steenkamp's death, the picture that emerged of Pistorius was that of a hot-headed young man obsessed with weapons. Other incidents came to light. Mindful of the global interest in the case, a judge has ruled that the trial can be broadcast live.
I think the main reason why the judge has decided that the media will have access to this trial is to make sure that there is no perception that Oscar is getting preferential treatment.
The trial of Oscar Pistorius has attracted wide-ranging interest, but whatever the verdict, the career of the athlete who just 18 months ago won the admiration of the world is over.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we replace the lead on this other edition of Green Turf. Join me in saying welcome back to Thierry Nana, who was indisposed a couple of months ago. Remember, he had an accident. Acceptance of love from producer Calvin Takam and director Serge Tachemo also. Don't you forget, there's always going to be a Green Turf rerun at 10:30 a.m. Cameroon time on Friday. And we come back 5:30 p.m. the same Cameroon time every Tuesday. Now, until next week, stay blessed. And remember the last word. Shalom!